Hello, everyone. Welcome to Deaf Mute Studio. This is the Memo by Deaf podcast, and I am joined by Matt Owen. Matt, hello.
Hello, Daniel.
So today on the podcast, Matthew, we need to talk about The Green Knight.
Yes, we do.
Because as I mentioned in my short review, it's art-housed up to fuck, and when something's usually art-housed up to fuck, there's plenty to talk about because it can be quite vague.
Yeah.
So, well, first of all, before we get into the actual story of it and the film, I've got to say I'm a bit annoyed at The Green Knight, not for the film itself, but it was scheduled for a cinema release. It then got pulled, which I understood because not many people are going to go watch The Green Knight. It's not exactly James Bond. So it would have been a waste of time. And then it got moved to Amazon Prime. I thought, excellent, get in. So I watched it on Amazon Prime. And then week later, it's out in the pictures. And if I would have known that, I would have held fire on watching it on my TV in mine. And you got it. You had a HD link of some sort, didn't you?
Yeah, I found it wasn't as good quality as what was on Amazon, but it was good enough to watch. It certainly wasn't like, an VHS bootleg or anything like that. And I never do that with anything that I'm looking forward to. But I couldn't hold my piss any longer with this film. Like, I was looking forward to this more than I was June. So yeah, through lockdown, it felt like, it was scheduled to get a cinema release, and then it wasn't, and then it was, and then it was. I kept on dangling the bait sort of thing, and I was like, I got to the point where I thought, I'm going to watch this as soon as I can, because I just can't wait any longer. And I feel now, I don't feel totally output by it, but I could have waited if I knew it was going to Prime, especially being in UHD. But then, like you, I'd have preferred to have waited for the cinema for it, because it's such like visually dense and like sort of beautiful film that you kind of want to have that first impression on it. So it's suffered more than just not getting the release when it was scheduled to, and not having a bigger theatrical release in terms of people have sought other means to be able to watch it. And I think, it certainly wasn't going to be a film that was going to make a lot of money. It is very niche, and like you say, it probably does fall into the art house category. It's certainly not Bond. It's certainly not anything that Marvel's churned out, and it's a really dense film, but something which I got loads of satisfaction from watching and milling through afterwards. But it's definitely suffered massively, like you say, through being delayed during the pandemic.
Yeah, I think I've slowly gotten over that. Like we went to pictures to see it, and thank God really, because I got a completely different, well, not completely different, but it was a greatly improved viewing experience compared to watching it at home. And I remember, like, when we left, we had a little talk about it and discussing it and whatnot just for a bit. And I was like, yeah, this is a really, the cinema experience just amplified it so much. And I remember, like, I usually listen to music on the way home when I'm crossing over that big dark fields when it's pitch black. I was like, I need to listen to the soundtrack for this. Like, I need to, and it's not a soundtrack that should be listened to whilst walking over a pitch black field. Because there's some tracks on there that's just, it's so creepy. I mean, I have to cut the tension by having a piss in the bush.
Don't go into the long grass.
Yeah. But yeah, and seeing it in the cinema, I was just like, it really should be seen on the big screen. And I think and I'm going back on myself saying this now, but I think with the amount of, I think if this was pre-pandemic, I think it would have done all right, because it's a refreshing change from the films you've just mentioned, Marvel, Bond, Dune. It's a completely, it's, and I think it's got the visual style that everyone can really appreciate, even if you don't understand it, which I'm throwing out there. Like I said to you the other night, as soon as I thought I understood it, something else happened that I thought I'm absolutely lost here. But I was just enjoying the visuals so much, and the sound design particularly. So is that something? I mean, how did you find the cinema going experience compared to home viewing?
Yeah, like I said, it was tenfold on watching at home on a screener, and then also on the UHD version through Amazon. To the point, something which I was going to bring up later on, but in the final scene when he gets to the Green Chapel, and he's sat there and the Green Knight's just static, and then there's like a little segment of twilight where you kind of see a close-up of the Green Knight's face. And what I realised in the cinema was it changes to the different characters that he's encountered. And I didn't get that from the screener, from the UHD version. I could only see that in the cinema. And like, for a film that's so like dense, there's visual information like that you need to pick up on, which might help you decipher what exactly is going on, or the avenue you should be thinking down to kind of, I mean, it's not a puzzle, it's not like a whodunit or anything like that, it's just very rich visually, so you kind of have to take a lot from it. And so just on that point alone, yeah, like, it has to be seen on the cinema, and I wouldn't recommend that anyone watch it any other way. If you can get to a cinema to watch it, do it. Like, there's just no excuse.
Yeah, hands down agree with it. I also agree with how you described it, calling it dense, because again, like yourself, I picked up on things that I never saw the first time of viewing, and I think if I watched it the third time, I'd pick up on something else as well, and so on and so forth. It's a film that deserves multiple viewings, but not in a sense of, you know, I was struggling with that, I need to watch it again. But it's like you mentioned with the Green Knight in the chapel and the different faces. Like, again, when I watched that at home, I thought that was just his face, Dev Patel's character, and then seeing it on the big screen, it changes so slightly, and it's just it's a fantastically dense. It's got so much going for it, and it really is a special film.
Yeah, the film, you know, it poses a few questions, and like, I think the main one is honor something that you can find on a quest. You know, that's the film's primary concern, with Dev Patel sort of proving his character of, you know, it almost shows this buoyant transition to a man, and probably doesn't quite know his place in the world. Could have been a biopic for you, this, by the way. Someone who lives with his mum and frequents brothels.
That is conjecture, Matthew. Conjecture. I've been kicked out of all of them.
No, but no, like, you know, it really is about his journey and the transition from a boy to a man, and kind of, you know, I'm not a parent, you're not a parent, but it kind of concerns itself with this idea of a parent wanting the best for the child, and, you know, to the point where, you know, his mother, a witch, conducts a ceremony, a sermon to get the Green Knight to appear, and it's all done in the name of, you know, Gawain proving himself. And, you know, from that point on, there's just so much going on, and it kind of, the theme that I picked up on first time I watched it was the whole, it's actually the tagline from Irreversible, which is time destroys everything. And you've got like this clock motif going throughout, and I think it starts when Arthur gives that speech around the table before the Green Knight enters, you get this like circular motion that goes on. Obviously, the Green Knight enters, everything plays out, gets beheaded, and then you get it here and there as well. You see it in the almost Punch and Judy like play that goes on, and you've got it's almost as a clock to show the seasons passing. You've got it there.
You see, I never thought about that. There are a lot of circles going on in this film. Like you say, the Punch and Judy show, the round table, the crown.
Yeah, the crown, yeah, that's another one, yeah. But then you've got that scene at the halfway point, which we discussed, where he's obviously being attacked by those bandits and left for dead, tied up in the woods, and the camera does that 360-degree pan, and at first you're kind of like, oh, what's going on here? You kind of don't necessarily understand it, but as it comes back around, he's there, he's wilted away. It's almost like within that motion, you've travelled forward in time, and then, it bounces back, comes back to him, and he acts upon that, he frees himself, and, the story takes off again from there. So yeah, it's just like this constant thread about time, and we spend our lives trying to fill it with meaning, and that's kind of like the journey that Gawain's on, trying to do so. And it poses that question, like, have you led a fulfilled life, or are you the person which you want to be? I mean, a lot of people want to be something, but they don't have the bollocks to kind of go through with it, sort of thing. And that's kind of the journey, the centre of that, what he's on. And it might be set up by his mum, and she might be pulling the strings from afar or what have you, but it's just this really cool notion, and it kind of, the whole time destroys everything thing, it kind of, what put a point on it for me was, it's when they get to the Lord's Castle, where Alicia Vikander comes back into the story, and she kind of has this whole monologue about green, and like it means death, and it's about the environment, and kind of that whole thing of we live, we die, we go in the ground, and kind of something becomes of us again. It comes back to this idea of
Himayana, Himyana.
Yeah. So I was like, that was the first thing I picked up on, and that's just like, it's the tip of the iceberg, really. The amount of other things going on, and what I would like to say is, for like a lot of the criticism, for like a lot of people who've like spoken out about it, and there's one writer who I absolutely like admire and adore, and he was like, he said it was just flashy visuals, like from a car advert, and I was like, I was a bit disappointed, because I really respect the guy who it is. He's probably like one of the best British writers out there, and there just is so much more going on than all the flashy visuals. And if you're not in the mood for that type of film, then
oh yeah, it's
night. But the level of detail that's in it, and you do have to like be in that mood to be receptive, to open your mind to it and want to open some of those doors. But it just is. It's just so dense, but in the best way possible.
It is, and it goes against the grain in a lot of ways, because you think knights, you think valiant, brave, but Gawain, or Gawain, as they say in the film, is he's a product of nepotism. He's all bravado. He likes the idea of becoming a knight and being this brave warrior, but really, he's a complete fuck up. He completely misunderstands the rules of the game. Especially, even the king, his uncle, says to him, "Are you sure you understand?" And he says, I think so. And you're like, the rules were quite clear, Gawain. Just give him a slice on the arm. But no, he had to be, he went into it bullheaded and went straight for the head, and he's just pretty much signed his own death warrant there. And he didn't have to, because going back to the nepotism, he was already sat beside the king when he had no right to sit beside the king, bar the fact he was the king's nephew. He was just in a brave knight's stead just because he was related to the king. And again, like you said, his mother's pulling all the strings in this. He's not going out and doing anything for himself, working hard, proving himself. He's just, well, he's an idiot, really. And it's not until the end where he sees what will happen in his future if he carries on down this path. And it's just nothing but misery. So he finally grows up, but you don't really see that in many films. The hero or the main protagonist is always quite stoic.
Yeah.
And like straight down the line, but he's a very flawed character. And I found that infinitely interesting.
It is. It's so much more interesting, and especially when you've got someone of Dev Patel's caliber in that role, who can be, that vulnerable.
Yeah.
Within it, and show that level of emotion without disconnecting, without disconnecting from the audience, and then because if you've got a character who's like so, repugnant, you switch off from it, don't you? Because you can't empathise with them.
Yeah.
But the whole nepotism thing and what you were saying there, another thing I got in my head, I was convinced after seeing it on the cinema that it was about social media.
Oh, go on.
I was just thinking about it. It's ironic in a way, because one of the places that I like to lurk is film Twitter. So you go on there and you see what people are discussing, and 9 times out of 10 it's all right, it's quite cool. And then just got me thinking about it, but in a sense of the way people use Instagram and the whole sort of how people's ego is tied up in how they're seen. Now Gawain sees himself in a certain way, but he wants to be perceived in another. So social media is a window into, a frame of someone's life where they choose to pick it. And just this whole sort of ego and naivety and sort of mollycoddled sort of person. I just thought, okay, yeah, cool. So that's kind of the point that they're trying to make with this. But then I was like, it's got fucking nothing to do with that. You just project your own self into it. But
I think that's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It just got me thinking about that. Whether that's right or wrong, it doesn't matter. But I thought, if this was a modern film, he'd be doing all kinds of selfies and stuff on the way while he was meeting all the people on this journey and stuff. And
he'd be an influencer, hands down.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of the way I was thinking about it. But yeah, there's just loads going on in the whole green tunic about being like this umbilical cord to his mother, of her wanting to send her son out into the world, but not really send him out into the world. She wants to kind of keep, an eye cast over him, not letting him make the right decisions or the wrong decisions, and that whole kind of, I don't know. It's like I don't know what it is, but it's like the whole Freudian thing of his relationship with his mother, especially in that scene when they get to the castle again, and you've got the woman who's blindfolded, much like her in the first scenes when she's casting that spell, and it's just the whole thing of, there's just so many layers to it. To decipher it and talk about it within 45 minutes or an hour, it is that dense. It's difficult to do so, but the whole thing of him going through this journey based in ego and wanting to show chivalry, to become a knight or to be respected, to have honor, to have valor, the way that film builds to that, and then gives you this 15-minute almost, there's not really any spoken word within it. They say that thing, don't you, before you die, you see life flash before your eyes, and the way that sort of final scene pans out, and then the rebuttal of taking the green tunic thing off and seeing the error of his ways, like he needs to go out into the world and sort of forge his own path, not with his mother, not as a knight, just live the way he wants to live and as the person that he wants to be. I thought, like, it's a really cool message, to be fair, and like I think if a lot of people could do that and not worry about things that are tied up in ego like social media and stuff, it'd probably be to the benefit of everyone. And I mean, like the one thing I did think about as well was it ends on an image of the Green Knight, doesn't it, rather than him? And I thought that's quite interesting.
Yes, doesn't it? I'm struggling to remember how it ended. Well, not I know how it ended, but like the very last frame. But isn't the last shot the moss coming over the titles? Is it?
Yeah, he does the off with your head, and then he smiles, and then it cuts to just says the Green Knight, and it's like a tree stump, isn't it?
Yeah, and the moss is slowly growing over it, isn't it?
Yeah. Like that got
a circle of life.
The circle again, yeah. Those what do they call them in trees?
Stump.
Well, it's a stump, yeah.
No, I know what you mean.
10 years.
Yes.
Is that
right? A line a year, I think. What is it? I don't know. I'm no geologist, if that is what geologists know about. But yeah.
Biology, isn't it?
I think that'll be it, yeah.
I don't know. Geologist stones?
Yes, they are. I'll tell you what, if anyone's watching this, let us know in the comments.
Because we don't fucking know ourselves. No. But yeah, like it got me thinking as well, like, is the whole thing about nature versus like civilization. And it's like, the Green Knight is a product of nature, and that, you know what I mean? And he basically is a tree. He's like Groot's uncle or something like that, isn't he? Essentially. And then that whole thing of nature taming this person who's been twisted by civilization, with ego, with all these delusions of grandeur and all kinds. And I kind of like that idea about it as well. And it was just, very dense, like I said. But I don't know, what did you have any other little brain farts like that, or?
Not really, to be honest. I'm still at a state where I'm trying to process, well, pretty much everything about the film. But it's like, because like you keep saying, it is so dense and a lot to pick from, and there's so much I find myself concentrating on other things about the film, like I mentioned before, like the sound design. Even then, I thought that was dense in a literal sense.
Yeah.
Especially with the Green Knight, because I mentioned to you the other night that every time he moves, it's like the sound of a tree being uprooted, and he doesn't move fluidly. He's very stiff and brittle, just like a tree. And I found myself like really in awe of that scene that's in the trailer at the beginning of the bringing in the game. And what I do like about the film very much so is I think its lower budget helped it.
Yeah.
Because I think tiny little effects like the use of light when the Queen's reading the letter, and all it is the light changes and his voice overlaps her voice. And again, when it cuts to, I'm pretty sure it's meant to be Merlin, but the guy with the long hair looks like Alan Moore.
Yeah, with the tattoos on his face.
Yeah, every time it went to him and he was thinking or casting a spell, it'd go red, and it was just that fantastic subtlety. Instead of, because if it were a $100 million budget film, CGI galore, and it would have ruined it. But with its budget, it had to really get creative and find different ways of portraying what's going on screen rather than resorting to CGI. Even the Green Knight himself was all practical effects. I mean, obviously with the head cutting off, you need special effects for that. But all in all, it was great to see what you could do with such a low budget. Now, I don't know the actual budget. Let's see. So
I'm guessing 10, 15 million.
It'd be something. I'd be surprised if it wasn't in that area of low budget. And just to create a film so visually stunning on such a shoestring budget compared to tentpole features.
Yeah.
And it looks better than a lot of Marvel movies do, and they've got money pumped in through them, like at I've lost my words. Like an IV.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's done it on, again, such a low budget and done so much, I'm in absolute awe of it, to be honest.
I mean, I only learned this afterwards. Like David Lowry, the director, he had some very specific inspirations for it. One of them being Willow. Now, we all know that I'm the biggest fan of Willow in the world.
Oh yes.
But there's some brilliant sort of technical elements which he incorporates into it. And the first one I think that you mainly see in the film, or you notice, is the map painting when he's on the road. The first shot when he starts the journey, he's got the kids in the background, the sheep come in, and you can just tell off to the right, the frame, that's a map painting in the corner. But because it's, loads of depth there, it's slightly out of focus, kind of looks like Tira's League, which is like the fort which they tried to get to in Willow. And I was like, oh, looking back now, you can see that. And I watched a feature on, I think it was Vanity Fair, and he's basically breaking down the scene when the Green Knight comes into the throne room where the round table is. And he's got like a piece of glass, and he draws on the glass. It's actually a map painting when they're in that room. So like they've set it up, they've added people as map paintings, they've added elements, windows, and then they just had the light on set directly from above and two from the side. And you can't tell that when you're in the scene whatsoever. And like for him to be thinking like that during this process, all those films that were made, from like the 80s up to, probably the beginning of the noughties, which still had to use those types of smoke and mirrors. That's the reason why he's been able to do this on that budget. But I think because of that, the film looks a million times better than everything that we're seeing at the minute, because it's so heavily digital. When you go back to those tangible effects, whether it's costume, whether it's a map painting, which the people who don't know, that's a drawing on a piece of glass around the frame of the film. It basically just extends the frame, and people have to sit there and draw that on and stuff. And it's bringing all those old sort of smoke and mirrors into the modern day. And I think because, like we were saying earlier, there's Dunes in the that are getting released. There's Bond's being released. So the stuff that it's in the cinema. I mean, I went to see Bond on the Sunday, and then I went with you on the Monday, day after, because Monday always follows Sunday. Straight away, like that juxtaposition of seeing those two films in the same cinema, I was like, this just works brilliantly. But yeah, like, there's a lot to say just for the production value of it. Like everything's done in like a really tasteful, really in justice, and it all serves the story. Makes that time, that era where it's set, where there's magic and giants and talking foxes and green axes and green knights. Like it suspends that disbelief, the suspension of disbelief is so much more real because of the way that he's approached it. And when you put the soundtrack on, like you said, that's the kicker for it all.
Yeah, going from what you've just said, mate, David Lowery, he sounds like he sounds like a filmmaker that doesn't exist anymore. It's very James Cameron growing up with Roger Corman, knowing all the tricks, all the smoke and the mirrors, like with Aliens, a lot of matte paintings there, and you've seen the making of with the face hugger, the one that scuttles across the ground and jumps for Ripley, and to get that effect, they just done it backwards and reversed the clip, and it's something we don't get anymore, or we haven't had for so many years. It's almost as if people don't know how.
I think there has just been like it's mad, isn't it? Like they're saying about all factory, like creating of boats, creating of cars, like doesn't happen in the UK anymore. Like it's all done overseas where it can be done cheaper. So there's like generations of people whose expertise on fabricating or whatever it is that have just been lost. And I think it's exactly the same in the film industry.
Yeah.
Neither of us actually work at it, so we're not the best people to know about that. But I imagine if even if you're making like a low budget feature film, if you wanted to make all these technical sort of prosthetics and stuff, it's probably really difficult to go and find someone. Whereas in the 80s and that, when things were thriving, where you had like action, horror, all those elements used that regularly, there was probably an absolute abundance of it, wasn't there? But there's something to be said for approaching whatever your project is in that vein going forward. I mean, we've all seen those trailers for Eternals. It's just a CGI sausage fest, isn't it? Like, you might as well have filmed the entire thing on a green screen somewhere and just done it that way. Apparently they haven't, but it still looks bizarre to me.
Yeah, I think with a film like The Green Knight, it's I think I said it before. It's just it came in as a breath of fresh air for me. It was because it was. I mean, we've all seen films that are visually stunning. Like I compared it to the likes of The Fall, The Fountain, but with this, it seems more gritty, and to me, it's more impressive because of when it was set, and it's still it doesn't look like Lord of the Rings. It doesn't look like, I don't know, Robin Hood. It seems grounded and real and gritty, and yet visceral at the same time.
That's a really good. That's a really good shout. What did you make of? You touched on, like when Merlin was doing some kind of magic spell when the Green Knight enters, and you also see that almost ritual-like ceremony that Morgan Le Fay does at the start to summon him. What did you think of the magical, the more the fantasy elements of the giants, the talking fox, those elements which usually are kind of really hammed up? I thought it went, instead of going over the top, it went under, didn't it? And just kind of placed them here and there throughout the narrative to just remind you, by the way, you are in a fantasy realm here. You're not knocking about in the woods with Robin Hood and Little John sort of thing.
Yeah, I can't agree more, mate. It was handled so well. So with the Giants, before it came out, I was a bit dubious about that scene because I was like, oh, Giants, it's a low budget film. This clip is probably going to be a few minutes of really bad or ropey CGI. But again, it's the smoke and mirrors things that you see them, but it's not a crystal clear view. They're masked by fog, which again, like it's a similar to the matte painting thing. It's for that, the CGI section, there was the use of smoke and mirrors for that as well, but in a CGI sense. Yeah. And the talking fox, I was really worried about because in the trailer, it looked a bit too a bit too talky, and I thought, is this going to be like Donkey from Shrek?
I've never seen Shrek, but I was going to say the more like Pumbaa and Timon from The Lion King.
There we go. Yes, well, same thought process anyway. But yeah, the fox was when the fox did talk, it was because clearly the fox was CGI, really good CGI, I might add. But it wasn't overdone, it wasn't overbaked. Everything had a really good sense of restraint. Yeah. And when the fox did speak, it wasn't an extreme close up, and you couldn't see, like, it was quite a long shot, so it was long enough so you could go, yeah, I think that looked all right. Yeah. Was that lip sync sound?
There was no Sergio Leone close up, was there, at any point?
Exactly. So it was. I think from this, I'm gonna go back because this is the first David Lowery film I've seen. I've not seen. Let's see. I mean, his last three films, A Ghost Story, I've heard really good things about. The Old Man and the Gun, which I'll be honest, I've not heard of. And he directed the live action remake of Pete's Dragon.
Never seen it.
The remake or the original? Either. Oh, mate, Pete's Dragon.
Wasn't it?
Yeah. So, and that is a CGI sausage fest. So it's mad to think that he's gone from Pete's Dragon and kind of, from the look of it, go out on his own and create some really distinct films. I mean, I've heard ghost stories. I've heard some people say it's good. I've heard some people say it's bad. So again, it's from that. It's very much like The Green Knight. You're either with it or you're not.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing about films like this is I always enjoy going back through whoever the director's back catalogue is. Excuse me. Seeing what else he's done and what's led him to get to this point. Because I think people will be talking about The Green Knight in like the years to come. I don't think it's got the necessarily critical or response that it will do. I think time will be really kind to it, and like people will realise that's nearly a masterpiece. It's not for me to say whether it is or it isn't, but I think it'll be talked about going forward. In a you look at all the films that are getting made at the minute. They're making a Lord of the Rings TV series, on Amazon.
Yeah.
And ironically, this is where on Amazon is where you'll be able to find this film forever now, because they've paid for the rights for it. So I don't know. Hopefully that's an inclination of how they'll approach the Lord of the Rings series, but I highly fucking doubt it.
No, that won't happen.
But yeah, I think like going forward, like watch this. If someone's watching this video in 10 years' time on YouTube, like they'll probably like, yeah, fucking hell, those two fucking Scouse cunts, they were fucking right. That was fucking good film, wasn't it? People just kind of went over people's heads. But this is how good it is technically. I think that film, when award season comes round, that film should be up for some technical awards. Like that's how good it is. The cinematography, I think.
I 100% agree, mate. Yeah.
It really should be. I mean, that's a conversation which people might try and continue to have to keep it in contention until, when is it, January or something like that?
So I never keep track of the Oscars, to be honest, but I agree with you, mate, and I think it should be. I can see it if it does get pushed for nominations. I can see it. I don't think it'll go for the big ones because they're taken by larger films, really. But I think it'll definitely, like, special effects, cinematography, costume design. I think it's definitely going in for, because I never often say this. The costume design was fantastic.
I could see you in a nice quilted tunic over Christmas, like a red one.
Oh, yeah.
and a brandy.
Hands down, and bear slippers.
Bear slippers. Oh, here's a shout for you, by the way. So I went back. Another thing that I noticed on the cinema viewing visually, you know when like you've got the scene with the giants, and then he arrives at the palace or whatever it is, where Vikander and
Joel
what's his
Edgerton,
name? Joel Edgerton are, right?
the
When
bear.
bear door, that's a fucking bear, isn't it?
Yes,
It's holding a lamp.
I never noticed that either until the cinema. I was like, bear, and he's always wearing like big furs, out hunting all the time. And I was trying to think like what's the connection there, because I can't remember the actual story of the Green Knight. I watched the video on it when I first saw the trailer, and I was like, oh yeah, that sounds interesting. I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
But I can't remember there being a bear being involved.
No, I don't think there is. Like, from what I can remember.
A big gay bear, by the way.
Apparently bears are gay. I never knew this.
Good for them. I'm glad they're comfortable in their own fare.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'd have to go away and have a look at why, or have a think about why there's one shot where it looks like a bear's holding a lantern. But yeah, it's interesting. It's I think there's loads going on in that final scene with, like I said, the woman with the blindfold, Alicia Vikander being there, who obviously plays Essel, who's kind of his love interest and slash prostitute at the start of the film. Like I've seen a few people criticise that, like saying you can't just have the same actress playing two characters. But then I think the way into that is the fact that there's a woman who sat there blindfolded, who nobody, including Dev Patel or Gawain, pays attention to at any point. So it's obviously like his mum has cast an element of the spell is to have someone in her guise or how she looks within that scene. The whole thing about the temptation, and then, like you're saying, which moves on and into that gay kiss scene or whatever you want to call that. Don't know. Was it gay? Does he just give him a peck because that's what he got? I never got a gay vibe from it.
Did you not know?
I mean, well, it's two fellas giving a kiss, isn't it? But which is very gay. But I just didn't. I don't know. I was just like,
no,
that's
I mean,
what he got, and passed it on.
Like the first time viewing, like the only time it hit me is when was when the kiss, but then the second time it was there was a bit of tension there coming from Joel Edgerton's character. He seemed very enamoured with Gawain or Gawain or whatever, and he's wanting them to come back. This is, I've bringing them loads of gifts, like bringing them I think it was a deer he killed, and I think he did take a fancy to, but again, it's something that I'm not 100% on, because there's so much going on already. I was just like, I can't deal with this one yet. Just let me get my head around the initial plot, and then I'll come back to the homosexual bear.
It wasn't exactly the volleyball scene from Top Gun. Let's put it that way. But no, like it is richly dense and like loads going on. But yeah, the cast was brilliant. Where like Joel Edgerton, obviously, I know you know his surname, Ralph.
Oh, Innocent.
Is it Innocent?
It's
Ralph Inson.
Is it Inson?
Finchy from The Office. Yeah,
it is Inson. Yeah. And I liked because it was produced by A24, wasn't it? And I liked the kind of the witch or the Vivitch reunion of Ralph Inson and Kate Dickie.
Yeah,
it's always good to see. But I really liked. This is another thing to zone in on. Alicia Vikander's Yorkshire accent.
Yeah.
I thought it was. I was like, she does that really well.
She does.
And
I wonder if she is Yorkshire.
No, she's Scandi, I think.
She's Scandinavian, yeah?
Sure. So let's confirm.
Yeah, so she normally sounds like a Scouser.
She's Swedish.
Oh, Swedish, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought she'd done. I know. Generally speaking, Scandi people speak perfect English because they've grown up on it. That's what they do. But to have, you don't see many Scandinavian actors doing good regional British accents.
No. I mean, how bad was Russell Crowe's in Robin Hood? He was meant to be a Yorkshire accent.
I will defend that accent because, yes, well, he's what was it? He's from Nottingham, isn't he? So we're going off track here, but like, bear with me. So Russell Crowe, Robin Hood's from Nottingham or Nottinghamshire.
Yeah.
But he's out on the Crusades, isn't he? And he's gone for like 10 years.
Yeah.
Now, people enlisted in the Crusades, but from all over England. And if you're with a number of different people from all over England, you kind of pick up a bit of their tongue. So it made sense for Russell Crowe to have a mixed accent. But in the context of the film, it's awful because it's just confusing.
I'll give you that. Yeah, I'll give you that. That's fair enough, I think.
But it was a bad choice to do that because everyone's going to zone in on it and go, come on, Russell.
One thing that we will agree on when it comes to accents in medieval films, Kevin Costner in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Oh, perfect.
But the great thing about it is, it's Kevin Costner. You know, Mr. Field of Dreams, JFK. He's the most American man. He's probably the most American actor that's ever acted, to be honest. Even when he plays Superman's dad, like, he's virtually back on the Field of Dreams set. Do you know what I mean? He just goes, nah, mate, I'm doing it my way. I don't care if I'm meant to be, you know, from Nottingham via fighting the Moors in the Middle East. I'm just bringing America to this party, and that's how I'm going to rock it, right up against Alan Rickman. That's all he's interested in.
Nottinghamshire needs good old-fashioned American wit to get rid of this tyrant. And by Joe, I'll give it to him.
But we've gone slightly off topic there, but going back to the cast of the film, like, it could have been, it's really easy to get the casting wrong, really easy. And the fact Lowry, you know, I think he's like a Midwest American. The fact that he knows you, Kate Dickie, Sean Harris, Dev Patel, Ralph Vinson, you know, that he knows who these actors are. You know, he's done his diligence, and you know, he's managed to get like a clique there of British talent to which helps sells it. I'm not being like xenophobic there or anything, but I think sometimes, to go back to accents, if you're making a medieval film, doesn't necessarily correlate to like America as such. Almost feels like if you're going to do that, it's going to be British. Lord of the Rings went heavy into it, didn't they? They mainly cast British actors. You know, John Rhys Davies. Trying to think of all the other names of all, like
Bloom, McKellen. Also, and also a lot of Australian and New Zealand actors as well in supporting. But yeah, mainly he did, and obviously the 2 of the 4 hobbits. Yeah,
Pippin and Merry.
Yeah,
Dominic Monaghan and Billy Boyd.
That's it. Yeah.
But I think that was another really good move what he made, by keeping it distinctly British, the cast.
What I really did like is, and from what I've seen, it's not become an issue. Like, thank God. the casting of Dev Patel in the lead, and usually it sparks some sort of race controversy, wouldn't it? Like, oh, what? You can't have. I think he's Indian of descent. I'm not too sure, but you can't have someone of color in a medieval film, and that was one of my main worries when the trailer came out, because obviously you've been on Twitter, you know how toxic it can be. I thought that would have been an issue for some online, well, let's call it as it is, trolls. Online racists.
Yeah.
But it seemed to have, no one seemed to be bothered by it at all. And I'm so happy because, like you said before, Dev Patel was fantastic in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I never ever, and I don't think you would, like, when I watched the trailer, I never went, Gawain wasn't like British Indian or British Asian or whatever, like, but like it's testament to like everything about it, the writing, the way, the casting, the production, by the way, all those elements are combined. Like it works. It just works, like in every sense. And like, you know, why shouldn't they have like a British, like if Riz Ahmed plays them, fucking hell. Riz Ahmed and Dev Patel for me are the two best talents acting wise to come out of Britain in fucking hell 20 years, something like that. But like, you know, Riz Ahmed he's been able to straddle Hollywood and doing his own things a little bit more than Dev. Like Dev's in this film called, I think it's The Wedding Guest. It's actually a Michael Winterbottom film. I'm surprised you haven't watched it. And he's basically like, he's hired to go, I think he goes to India to an arranged marriage to kidnap the bride. And that's why he's going to this wedding, and the story unfolds from the kidnapping onwards. And like, I've never seen him in that type of sort of mode, that avatar, that persona on screen before, and I was like, fucking hell, he's quite good at that. Like he's in with the show for fucking Bond here, well, maybe not Bond, but you know, he was surprised because I'd never seen him portray a role like that before. But you know, he's fucking boss.
Yeah, I mean, I remember him from Skins, like just this scrawny little kid, and I didn't even give him any thought. And then I know he came big with Slumdog Millionaire, but even then, I was just like, I thought that'd be his biggest film, and I didn't think, although I like Slumdog Millionaire, I didn't come away from it going, oh, that's Dev Patel, he was amazing. But lately, like
a bit of a light bulb moment for me was the role that he plays in The Newsroom.
I was about to mention The Newsroom, yeah.
He kind of steals the show in that, doesn't he? I think, like he crops up like in episode, like every other episode, and his arc in it, I think, is really good because like he starts as like not like a trainee, but by the end of the series, is it 3 or 4 seasons? I think it's 3. But yeah, by the end of that, like his arc goes from being like this kid who's immigrated over to America to becoming like, it's a bit like the Green Knight in a way. He has this romantic notion of what a journalist should be, about it being for like standing for honour, and you know, you never compromise your contacts and anyone in that nature. And by the end of the series, he kind of attains that, and it's like, it's a really good, strong character arc for him. And I think that has obviously set him up. Everything he's picked since seems to be the right kind of projects. But yeah, like anyone who hasn't seen The Newsroom, they have to go and check that out because
it's phenomenal. I mean, the thing that really I was really impressed with him in The Newsroom is he didn't seem out of place. He was never out of his depth with juggling that insane Aaron Sorkin dialogue, that quick back and forth. He seemed very at ease and very in the moment, and I was just like, Dev Patel's good, man.
Yeah, you kind of have to be when you're doing Sorkin, don't you? I think, not that I've ever been there, but it is like, it's so rapid fire, and it is like theatre, isn't it? Like, obviously that's what he does as well as screenwriting. He writes for the theatre, and the fact that, I mean, to be fair, like the newsroom, it's a pretty, it's a bit like the Wild Bunch, innit? You know what I mean? The people that they got in the cast for that, like, I never ever seen Jeff Daniels as that type, playing that type of role, like down the line sort of thing. But a bit like, again, like the Green Knight, the actors, the collective that they bring together for it, it fits the story and the tone, and it works together.
Yeah, no, completely agree, mate. It's I mean, you mentioned Dev Patel for Bond. I wouldn't be too disappointed if he was the next Bond. I think he's a shit hot actor. To be honest, he can. I'm now Team Dev. I mean, I haven't really got a horse in the race when it comes to Bonds. I just couldn't give a fuck. But if Dev Patel got it, I'd be like, I'll definitely go see that. That is going to be some interesting Bonds going on.
I think for me, like the only two, if they're going to go British, again, like Dev Patel and Riz Ahmed are both top of my list. And what I like about, if you were to cast them now for the next 10, 15 years, you're getting an age of Bond which you've never had before. It's leaning towards the younger end. You know, it doesn't have to go and do, it doesn't matter if it steps on Daniel Craig's Skyfall short story and all that. But I think that's an angle to the series which we've not seen before. So it'd be interesting.
Yeah, it's well, that's exactly what it would be, interesting. Because I'm not a big Bond fan. It bores the whole off me these days. But in order to get me back into Bond, I'd need a big statement like Dev Patel. I mean, personally, I'd go. My favourites for it are Dev Patel, Henry Cavill, and is it Richard Madden or Marsden from Game of Thrones? Madden, yeah. I'd one of them three. I'd be back in.
I'd like to think Dev, Riz Ahmed. I give it to that Letitia. I don't know her surname. She plays the she plays she's 007 in the latest one.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah,
I'd be quite happy with her as Bond. I thought she rocked it. Like, I know you've not seen her, so I don't want to give anything away, but I thought she was really good in it, and I couldn't give a shit if they cast someone gay, straight, or Australian.
No,
black, white, human, I don't care. Like, just make a fucking boss film.
Exactly. We're all pink on the inside.
I'm glad you only used the latter end of that quote, which a friend of ours uses.
Oh, but yeah, back to the Green Knight, mate. I think the consensus is it has the potential to be one of them unsung classic. I won't say cult classic, but I think it'll just. I agree. I think it'll be viewed for many years to come and dissected and praised as such, even though it's not got enough love from the press or the general public right now.
Yeah, I think A24. I don't know where to point the blame, but the whole campaign, it's cinema campaign. It's this date, and then it's not, and then it's this date, and then it's not, and then Amazon are buying it, and like I think that fucked it really for them. But I think this is a better film than, like, say, what's it called? Ari Aster's second one, Midsummer.
Midsummer.
This is a better film, hands down, for me.
Midsummer was. I mean, I liked it. I completely understand why people don't. It's one of them films where it prioritized themes over logic, But again, with Green Knight, I think it will be at a hit and miss for a lot, but for completely different reasons.
Yeah, you spot on.
Right, mate. We'll call that a pod, because I think I've ran dry with my internal knowledge of the Green Knight. I'll need quite a few more viewings to crack this discussion open again.
Well, whenever you're ready, I'm ready. Just let us know, and we'll go Green Knight round 2.
Round the table. I don't know what I was trying to say there. It's quite late. I'm tired. But yeah. Thank you, Matthew, for coming on and discussing what is slowly becoming my film of the year. Maybe, I don't know. It's up there. It's definitely in the top 10.
Has there been 10 films released this year?
I've definitely seen 10 films at least this year.
I don't think I've even seen 5. That's my film of the year.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely a cut above the rest. I can't think of a better film this year so far, and we're in October, so there's not much time left. Hollywood.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tall order, but I hope there'll be future cinema screenings of this. Beyond its current release. I'd like to see someone like Fact do a showing of it sometime, so I can revisit it, because I really don't want to watch it at home again.
I know you're saying.
The cinema experience just blew the home viewing experience completely out the water, and I'm someone who doesn't care that much about, I've got to see it in the cinema. But with this film, it is definitely you have to see it at the cinema to truly appreciate it.
Absolutely. And on a final note, it's set at Christmas, but it's not a Christmas film in the sense of there's nothing to contextualize that. There's no snow, there's no decorations, they're not drinking wine and singing hymns or songs, are they?
You've actually reminded me, I completely forgot it was in fact a Christmas film, and it is officially the first Christmas film that I've watched outside of the Christmas holiday period that I've enjoyed.
Wow.
Because Matthew, I watching a Christmas film not during Christmas is fucking bonkers.
It's a fucking crime, lad.
It's like when Iron Man 3 came out in the summer and it was set at Christmas. WTF.
Just bizarre. Just fucking bizarre, lad.
It's so odd, and I'll never forgive it for that. I don't care about the Mandarin. It was a Christmas film that came out in the summer.
Bizarre, mate. No, I'm completely with you on that. I can only watch Scrooge at one time of the year, and that's between December 10th and the 20th. I kind of like, there's certain films that I only want to watch at Christmas because they only work at Christmas. And when January 1st, that's it. Those DVDs, they're back in the box. They're fucking away. I'm talking your Home Alones, your National Lampoons, just Christmas specials. Like I won't even watch The Office Christmas special unless it's Christmas.
Oh man, I only watched Die Hard in December.
That's it. But this could go on one of those lists of a Christmas film that isn't a Christmas film, like Die Hard.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I suppose we should leave it there.
Yes, we shall. Thank you again, Matthew, and I will speak to you soon.
See you soon.